Thank you yet again for tuning in to a midweek devotional. I hope and pray they're meaningful to you, and I want to think with you today about direction based in who we are. And I want to do that by thinking of a funny little aggravation. Everywhere I've ever lived in my adult life, I've always had a couple of favorite haunts to go grab lunch. Places where I know the help or the ownership and they know me, dating back to my days in television when I would go out in public and be recognized and known, which is not nearly as much fun as you think it would be. But I've always had those places. The default choice when you just need a quick lunch. Run out from the office, come back, going to make hospital calls, stop lunch on the way. And now in my 11th year here living in Arlington, I admit the reality that I have never had those haunts as I have served this great church. And there's no problem with that at all. It's just a funny way of thinking. Because so often when I have left this office planning on coming back or using lunch as a transition to go somewhere else, I get in the car thinking I'll figure out where I'm going to go. And nothing really excites me. Now, there's incredible places to eat. I mean, we're very blessed to have those. But a lot of them are either fast food style or they're a little more upscale, and those old Marc Lowrance hole-in-the-wall haunts that I enjoy so much just aren't in this area. And I drive down the road and I turn around and I go this way and I decide I'll go there and what about, and can't ever find anything that really gets me exciting. And so I wind up getting 2 tacos and a small hamburger from Jack in the Box and go home and eat it, or just go home and fix leftovers. And in so doing, I can waste half an hour with my indecision. The more fun example is when I go out and take my widowed mom out to dinner on the weekends. She's never been a big decision maker during all of her lives. And so I'll say, Mom, where are we going to go? Oh, I don't care. You decide. And I'll say, okay, we'll go here. Oh, well, I don't want to go there. Well, all right, you decide. No, I don't want to decide. You decide. All right, then we'll go to the such and such. Well, I don't want to go there. Well, then decide. You decide. Tell me where you want to go. She won't do it. So it's this cat and mouse hit and miss game until I can peg something. And of course, I've learned where she likes to go. She's limited to 2 or 3 places that she'll go at this stage of life. And when I pick one, that's a wonderful choice. And off we go. Now, apply that little crazy example, insignificant, just a funny aggravation to think about. But broaden it out to the way we live our lives. When we wake up and face a God-given day of life, as we make the choices as to who we are, where we're going, what our priorities are, what our goals for that day are, do we aimlessly wander around trying to figure out something that whets our appetite for life, so to speak, on an impromptu or live for the moment basis? Or do we know in advance what our goal and purpose is and align our agenda with those goals and purposes? It's a fascinating thing to think about because there's a lot of aimlessness in our culture. There's a lot of aimlessness in our faith, a lot of aimlessness in all walks of life. It's interesting. There's an ethic, you belong before you believe. I like that. It's an inclusive ethic. It's very invitational to people in church. But I also want to suggest to you there's another little ethic that says your being will define your going and your doing. Who are you? What are you after in life? And being able to answer those questions will define where we go and what we do. One of the greatest, most significant, most profound sermons ever preached on planet Earth is recorded in the 5th chapter of Matthew. It's called the Sermon on the Mount, and I have a little artistic attempt at understanding that here on my computer screen. There's Jesus, finger in the air, disciples and others. The artwork shows in many ways probably more people than were actually there that day. Maybe I'm not accurate in describing that. But that great message, which captures so much of life in faith, of faith in God through Jesus Christ, begins with what we call the Beatitudes. Now remember this little ethic of being before we go and do, or being will define our going and our doing. These are the Beatitudes, or the attitudes of being. And listen to this. In chapter 5, verse 3, after the introduction is made about the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." What does that mean in defining our being? Who are those poor in spirit? Who are they out there? Can you figure out who they might be? Well, it might be wise to determine our being by realizing that we are the ones who are poor in spirit. We're the ones Jesus is talking to. Me? But I'm Marc Lawrence. I did TV for 10 years for professional wrestling, and I've been a pastor for 30 years. And me, poor in spirit? And the answer is yes, Mark. And yes to you. Because any goodness we have in us, and it's there, is unlocked through dependence on God through Jesus Christ. And when we are self-aware and humble enough to acknowledge that without Christ we live in poverty spiritually, then we're very open to our being defined by the principles that Jesus offers to us. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Mourning describes grief or hardship, and that's when the Spirit sometimes can be most real, because our self-reliant devices tend to fade away during times of grief, crisis, and mourning. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are those who are persecuted for my sake. Their reward will be great. The qualities of dependence, the qualities of humility, the qualities of gratitude for recognizing God's love and grace far beyond what we could ever deserve or earn on our own, are such defining qualities of any follower of Christ that it helps us to be people who are defined by graciousness, kindness, gratitude, humility, those qualities of the Spirit of peace, patience, kindness, gentleness that only Christ can bring out and govern in our lives. And when our being is defined by those qualities, then our going and our doing will have purpose that aligns with those. And God will use us and work in us, and we'll be experiencers of change and transformation, and we'll be agents of change and transformation in others. So if you find yourself like me, sometimes a little aimless, go back to who you are. Read this stuff and a lot of other great things in Scripture, and let your being determine your going and your doing. See you next time.